Friends, watch this video till the end or else she will eat us. Oh no! Hello friends, today we have a new exciting adventure. Dobie and I found ourselves in the game Roblox in the Escape the Girls Prison mode. But don't be fooled by the name. This place is not as cute as it sounds. The prison is scary, full of traps and challenges, and we were put in its most dangerous part.
Hi, everyone. Yes, the prison here is far from girly. We quickly realized that this was going to be a tough challenge. Everyone knows we always get out of the most difficult situations, and that's why we were sent here. But even under such conditions, we found a way to start our escape. In the cake that was sent to us, there was a shovel. We used it to dig through the floor, and that's when all the trials and parkour started.
Yes, Dobie, it was unexpected to find a shovel in the cake, but that didn't stop us. As soon as we got out of the cell, we found ourselves in a network of corridors and rooms full of traps. Everything around looked intimidating. Gloomy walls, dark corners, and the constant feeling that we were being watched.
Exactly, Labrador. The entire interior of this prison leaves no doubt. They want to keep us here at any cost. We've seen a lot of scary places, but this is probably one of the creepiest. We went through several narrow tunnels and dark corridors, but we never doubted our success. We're already used to such trials.
As we progressed, we had to face various obstacles, but each time we found a way to overcome them. It was important to stay calm and keep our wits about us. We trusted each other and knew that together we could handle any difficulties.
Our determination and faith in each other are what keep us moving forward. We've proven time and time again that we can get out of any situation. This time will be no exception. In the prison, we faced not only physical but also psychological challenges. The constant pressure and fear were our companions, but we didn't give up.
With each step, we got closer to freedom. Going through all these trials, we learned to understand each other better and work as a team. It was a real test of our friendship and cooperation.
That's right, Labrador. Now we know that we can handle any difficulty if we stick together. We'll have to fight all the prison guards. If anyone thinks girls are weak, watch this video and you'll never think that again.
As you already know, this prison was specifically designed for girls. It was built to contain those who, in the eyes of its creators, pose a particular danger due to their skills or abilities. Despite its name, the girls' prison has become a place for those who have repeatedly proven their ability to escape from any traps and find a way out of the most difficult situations.
Exactly. But why are Labrador and I here? The fact is, our successes in escaping various prisons have become known throughout Roblox. We have become legends, and our adversaries decided to test us in the most extreme conditions. They wanted to ensure that even in this terrifying prison, created with maximum caution and thoughtfulness, we wouldn't be able to find a way out.
Of course, it wasn't easy for us. We understood that here we would face the most challenging trials they could come up with. Every corner, every door, and every corridor was filled with traps and obstacles. They hoped that in such a place, we wouldn't be able to use our skills and would be trapped forever.
But they underestimated our determination and teamwork. Together, we are a force capable of overcoming any barriers. We knew we couldn't let down those who believe in us and follow our adventures. And although this prison was built for girls, it couldn't break our spirit and our will to be free. Subscribe, friends, and we will definitely get out of here. Or will we? Find out at the end of the video.
Our animal city never stopped surprising us, but what happened this time exceeded all our expectations. What started as an ordinary day turned into something completely bizarre. I woke up and discovered that the entire city had changed. And not just changed, every single resident had suddenly turned into a girl. Yes, that's right. Every animal, whether it was a lion, a rabbit, or even a bear, suddenly became female.
At first, I thought it was a dream or some cruel prank, but when I stepped outside, I saw that the changes had affected everyone. Not only the animals, but I myself had turned into a woman. We needed to figure out what had happened immediately. Labrador and I started an investigation right away. We first interviewed witnesses and learned that the transformation happened in just a matter of minutes.
Yes, I remember talking to Professor Owl, who said that this could only have happened due to a powerful magical influence or an unknown chemical substance. We went to the professor's lab to investigate possible causes. He was one of the few who remained calm in such a situation.
In the lab, we conducted numerous tests. The professor checked the air, water, and even food for any anomalies, but everything seemed normal. Then, the professor suggested we examine the magical artifacts stored in the city's museum. There were many ancient and powerful items there that could have had such an effect.
When we arrived at the museum, we discovered that one of the artifacts was missing. It was an ancient amulet with the ability to change one's gender. We immediately began searching for signs of theft. On the museum floor, we found a few drops of unknown liquid and paw prints leading into the forest.
We followed the trail, and it led us to an old abandoned house on the edge of the forest. There, we found a group of unknown creatures who, as it turned out, had stolen the amulet. They had used it for their own purposes, but lost control of its power, which caused the mass transformation in the city.
After long negotiations and explanations, we convinced them to return the amulet and help us restore the original order. With their help and the professor's knowledge, we devised a plan to reverse the spell. The amulet had to be activated at a specific time under the light of a full moon.
On the appointed day, we gathered all the city residents in the main square. The professor activated the amulet, and under the light of the full moon, the spell began to work. Gradually, everyone started to return to their original forms. It was an amazing sight.
After everyone had returned to their original forms, we discussed what had happened for a long time. The professor suggested that the amulet be kept in a more secure place to prevent such an incident from happening again. This event taught us a lot and brought the city's residents closer together.
So, dear subscribers, sometimes the most unexpected events can bring us all together and teach us to appreciate what we have. We're grateful to everyone who helped us in this situation, and we hope there won't be any more surprises like this.
Dear subscribers, Dobie and I have an incredible story for you. You know, in our animal city, something unusual always happens. But what happened this time even left Dobie and me stunned. At one point, the boys in our city suddenly started acting strangely. We noticed they became overly mischievous, disobedient, and began causing problems for the entire community. Everyone tried to handle the situation, but nothing seemed to work. In the end, a decision was made. All the boys needed to be gathered and locked up in a specially built prison.
Labrador and I were on duty when we received the order from the city's elders. All the boys had to be sent to prison, and only girls would guard them. The boys had become a real threat. They wouldn't listen to their elders, their parents, and even started small rebellions.
So, Dobie and I were given the task of ensuring the safe transport of all the boys to the prison. At that time, we didn't know exactly how everything would unfold. But, as always, we had to act quickly and efficiently. We knew the girls would handle it. They were smart, strong, and determined.
When we arrived at the prison, the situation there was tense. The boys, as you can imagine, weren't going to surrender without a fight. They were confident they could escape or somehow defeat the girls. But the girls guarding the prison gave them no chance. Labrador and I closely monitored the situation, but trusted the girls in their responsibility.
At first, of course, the boys resisted. They didn't want to follow the rules and even tried to stage small protests. But the girls, as true leaders, showed their willpower and wisdom. They didn't resort to violence, but used their communication skills and patience. Over time, the boys began to realize that in order to get out of prison, they had to change their behavior.
Yes, exactly. At one point, when we were observing their interactions, it became clear that the very fact that the boys were in prison played a big role. Being in such an unusual position, they realized that only by working together could they achieve freedom. The girls taught them the importance of respecting one another and cooperating, as well as understanding how crucial it was to follow the rules for the common good. This was a real turning point in the history of our city. After a few weeks, we saw how the boys began to change. They started listening, helping each other, and acting as a team. Dobie and I often visited the prison to make sure everything was going according to plan. When we finally concluded that the boys had learned their lesson, we made the decision to release them. The girls were proud of their work, and the boys were grateful for the chance to change.
Yes, and with that, we wrap up our adventure. If it weren't for your comments and likes, it would have been much harder for us. But it's your words that inspired us to keep going and not give up, no matter what. Thank you for your support.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave likes, and follow our new adventures. We promise that even more exciting and challenging trials await us ahead. So, stay with us.
See you soon, friends. Don't miss our next videos. They'll be even more thrilling. This living toy wants to catch us. Watch the video until the end to save us. Oh no! Hello, friends! Today, Dobie and I found ourselves in an exciting new Roblox game called Escape the Epic School. Obby. This school looks simply amazing. Bright walls, beautiful classrooms, and hallways. But as soon as we started moving through the school, we realized that something was wrong.
Hello, everyone! Yes, Labrador, you're right. In this school, all the teachers are animated toys. They've gone haywire and have become real threats. The head teacher is a huge head with a police hat and long arms and legs. He looks terrifying, and just seeing him gives you the chills. But that's not the only danger.
The school is indeed impressive with its beauty. Every classroom and hallway shows attention to detail. At first glance, it seems like the perfect place for learning. But we quickly understood that behind this beauty lies something sinister. The toy teachers, who were supposed to entertain children, now pose a serious threat.
One teacher that stood out was a toy pizza. When we first saw him, he seemed quite funny. But as soon as we got closer, he came to life and started chasing us. We quickly realized he was no joke, but thanks to our experience and teamwork, we managed to escape the danger.
All these teachers were once part of the educational process, but something went wrong, and they became the school's guards. We found out they were created to help children learn, but a system failure caused them to act aggressively. This is especially true for the head teacher, a huge head with long limbs. His appearance is truly frightening.
As we progress through the school, we notice how everything is meticulously detailed. The chemistry classroom has real laboratories, the gym has exercise equipment and basketball hoops. But none of this is for us. We need to find an exit and avoid these animated teachers.
With each passing minute, we become more convinced that this school is not an ordinary place. Everything here is designed to keep us inside. We constantly feel the eyes of these toys on us. They watch our every move, and it makes us uneasy.
Despite all these difficulties, we remain optimistic. We know that together we can overcome any obstacles. We've found ourselves in similar situations before and always found a way out. This time, we are not going to give up either.
Thank you for being with us, friends. Your support means a lot to us. We will keep you updated on all our adventures and hope that together we can escape from this epic school.
Stay with us because there's much more excitement ahead. We are confident that we can overcome all challenges and find a way out of this mysterious school. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and you can leave any comment, and we will respond to it.
We have a story about a school. When Dobie and I received an urgent call to the school, I had no idea what awaited us. Usually such calls are related to minor incidents, but not this time. We were informed that the teachers had started acting strangely. They were destroying classrooms, tearing up textbooks, and causing complete chaos. It was unimaginable. Dobie and I immediately realized that this was serious and we needed to act quickly. When we arrived at the scene, the students were already trying to calm their teachers, but it was clear that they had completely lost control.
I had never seen anything like it. Imagine a school where instead of the usual learning process, there is complete chaos. Teachers, who were always examples of order and discipline, suddenly became totally unpredictable. They were breaking desks, scattering teaching materials, and seemed to be in some sort of trance. The students, on the other hand, were trying to calm them down, which was surprising. I saw how the older students took on the role of adults, trying to organize and protect the younger ones. Labrador and I immediately started figuring out what could have caused such behavior in the teachers.
We quickly discovered that everything started when a new history teacher appeared at the school. It was said that he brought with him some ancient artifacts that he used for his lessons. One of these artifacts was a strange box with intricate patterns that he showed to the class. It was right after this that all the problems began. The teachers who saw this box immediately started acting aggressively. We decided we needed to find this box and understand what it was. But where to look in such chaos?
We started our search in the history classroom, but it was a complete mess. All the shelves were overturned, books scattered everywhere. Labrador and I decided to split up to find the box faster. I went to the old cabinets while Labrador checked the desks and drawers. We found a map.
We realized that the map was somehow related to the teacher's hypnosis. We needed to quickly find a way to lift this effect. We approached the school principal, who fortunately had not yet been hypnotized. He told us that he had heard legends about such artifacts, and that the only way to remove their influence was to find the key to these symbols.
Labrador and I set out to find the teacher. The trail led us to an old building on the outskirts of town where he was temporarily living. We entered his room and found numerous books and documents related to magic and hypnosis. Among them, we found a diary where he detailed his experiments with the box and the map. It turned out that he had accidentally activated a spell that caused this chaos. The diary also mentioned that to lift the spell, a ritual needed to be performed in the schoolyard using the map and certain words.
We returned to the school with the map and began preparing for the ritual. The students, despite the chaos, helped us as best they could. We explained to them what needed to be done, and together we started the ritual. Dobie lit the candles while I held the map and read the words from the ancient symbols. Suddenly, everything around us was illuminated by a bright light, and the teachers began to come to their senses. It was an incredible sight. The spell was lifted, and the school gradually returned to normal. The teachers became themselves again, and the students showed that they could handle the most difficult situations. You know, guys, there's another story where you'll recognize your school. Usually in schools there are fights or small pranks, but this time the situation was much more serious. The students decided to play a prank and locked all the doors so no one could get out. They stuffed the toilets with shirts and turned on the water, causing a massive flood. Imagine a school turned into a huge aquarium, with water flooding the halls and classrooms. Dobie and I had to act fast to save the school from destruction.
When we arrived, we were met with an incredible sight. Water was flowing out from under the doors, and inside the school, there was total chaos. Students were in panic, some trying to escape by climbing onto desks and tables. The water kept rising, and the situation was becoming more and more dangerous. We knew we had to act quickly, or the school could suffer even more damage. The first thing we did was contact our elephant friends, who could help us absorb all the water.
While we waited for the elephants to arrive, Dobie and I began evacuating the students. We helped the children get out of the classrooms and directed them to the exits. Some doors were blocked by water, and we had to use our strength to break through the flood. Despite their fear, the students tried to help each other. Dobie and I coordinated their actions to avoid panic and injuries. Meanwhile, the water kept rising, and the situation was getting more critical.
When the elephants arrived, we immediately sprang into action. Thanks to their powerful trunks, the elephants began absorbing the water like giant sponges. It was an impressive sight. They worked quickly and in sync, helping us save the school. The water level gradually started to drop, and the panic among the students eased. The elephants did an incredible job, and thanks to them, the situation was brought under control. Labrador and I continued to oversee the evacuation, helping those who were still inside.
Gradually, thanks to the elephants' efforts, the water level began to fall, and we were able to assess the damage. Many classrooms were flooded, furniture was ruined, and educational materials were lost. However, the most important thing was that no one was hurt. The students and teachers were safe, and that was our main goal. We thanked our elephant friends for their help, as we wouldn't have been able to manage without them. Now we had to deal with the aftermath and figure out who exactly was behind the prank.
We started the investigation, interviewing students and teachers. It turned out that a few high school students decided to play this prank and didn't think about the consequences. They realized what they had done and were genuinely remorseful. We had a disciplinary talk with them, explaining how dangerous such pranks could be. It was important not only to punish the guilty, but also to teach them responsibility for their actions.
In the end, the school returned to normal life. We helped organize repairs and restore the damaged property. The students and teachers learned how important it is to be cautious and think about the consequences of their actions. Dobie and I were glad everything ended well and that we managed to prevent a catastrophe in time. This story became a lesson for everyone, showing that even the most innocent-looking pranks can lead to serious consequences.
And that's how this unusual story ended. Once again, we were reminded how important it is to be attentive and responsible. And our elephant friends showed that they are always ready to help in tough times. It's important to remember that together we can tackle any problem, and true strength lies in unity and mutual support.
And don't forget, despite all these challenges, we still find moments for laughter and joy. The Epic School is just one of the many adventures we're experiencing thanks to you. Your likes and comments are what motivate us to keep going and overcome all difficulties.
Absolutely! So don't worry, we'll be back here to finish this adventure and defeat the main teacher. We'll continue searching for a way out. And of course, we'll make sure to tell you how we managed to do it.
Hello, friends! Today, we have a dangerous new mission in Roblox. Dobie and I joined the Escape from Evil Grandma game mode and found ourselves trapped in a huge, strange building. It looks like a warehouse, but it has elements of a daycare and a school. Scattered everywhere are old toys, desks, lockers with textbooks, and random blankets. But the scariest part, this place is ruled by an evil grandma who has no intention of letting us leave. We have to escape before it's too late.
Yeah, Labrador, this place is terrifying. There are things everywhere that once belonged to kids, but now they're dusty and forgotten. The lights flicker and the air smells like old furniture. I have a bad feeling. Grandma already knows we're here. We can't hear her footsteps yet, but that doesn't mean she's far away. We have to be extremely careful because there's no turning back. The doors behind us have already locked.
We look around. In front of us are long rows of tall shelves stacked with boxes and strange objects. Old dolls, school notebooks, torn backpacks. It looks like a collection from different time periods. We need to make our way through this maze, but something tells me there are traps ahead.
I noticed some boxes moving on their own. The warehouse seems alive. It looks like evil grandma has put a spell on this place. Suddenly, a loud thud echoes in the distance. Something just fell. We freeze. It could be just an old toy, but I have a feeling we're not alone.
Step by step, we move carefully through the warehouse, staying close together. Suddenly, we hear a loud creak. The door at the end of the corridor slowly opens by itself. It seems like the only way out, but as soon as we get closer, slam! The door slams shut. Grandma is playing with us. We need to find another way out.
We find a side passage and escape the warehouse. Now we're in an even creepier place, an old daycare. It must have been bright and cheerful once, but now it's different. Dolls with faded eyes sit in the corners. The walls are covered in drawings. Children, but their faces look scared. The swings creak on their own, even though there's no wind.
Every step here feels heavy. It's like the place itself doesn't want us to leave. The floor is covered in spilled paint, but it looks too dark to be paint. I have this strange feeling. We're being watched. Suddenly, we notice an old rocking chair in the corner. It's slowly moving back and forth, even though no one is sitting in it.
This is no coincidence. Grandma knows we're here. We need to get out of this area fast. We move through the rooms filled with broken toys and forgotten belongings. But once again, the exit is blocked. Grandma isn't going to let us go that easily.
See, finally, we escape the daycare and enter the school hallways. There are lockers everywhere, scattered books, and on the blackboard, someone has written, "You will never escape." This is starting to feel like a horror movie, but we're not afraid. We're sheriffs, and we will escape.
The silence is broken by a loud, piercing bell. The sound echoes through the hallways. This is definitely a trap. We speed up, but then we hear a creaky voice from around the corner. Grandma! She's here!
We hear her heavy footsteps. The floorboards creak beneath us, and the walls seem to move. We cannot stop. The hallway feels endless, but up ahead we see a door. Our only chance to escape. We sprint forward.
But Grandma is fast, faster than she looks. She's already right behind us. Her long, bony hands reach out. We dive for the door and slip through just in time. Grandma bangs on the door angrily, but it's locked. We need to keep moving before she finds another way to get to us.
We find ourselves in a massive room. This must be the main warehouse hall. In the center stands a giant rocking chair, and the walls are covered in old photographs. But we don't have time to look around. Evil Grandma is here. Her cold eyes stare at us, and in her hands are huge knitting needles. She's not going to let us go without a fight.
She moves faster than we expected. Her heavy steps shake the floor, but she's quick. We dodge her attacks, trying to find her weak spots. We have to work together.
We use all our skills. The battle is intense, but we won't give up. Grandma tries to corner us, but we dodge just in time. Slowly, she starts to weaken.
One final move. We launch a decisive attack, and Grandma vanishes. The room becomes brighter. The warehouse and school return to normal. We did it. The exit door unlocks, and at last, we are free.
Phew, that was a tough mission, but we made it. Evil Grandma will no longer haunt this place. The warehouse, daycare, and school are back to normal. We restored order.
Great work, Labrador! We proved that even the scariest villains can't stop real sheriffs. Mission complete! We escaped. Now we're ready for our next adventure.
It was just an ordinary day in our town. Dobie and I were patrolling the streets, enjoying the peace, when suddenly the sky lit up with a strange flash. I barely had time to notice how the ground beneath us trembled, the air filled with electricity. And in the next moment, we were no longer where we were supposed to be. When I came to my senses, I saw massive skyscrapers before me. Glowing screens displayed the faces of famous superheroes. On one of the buildings, I saw a giant letter A. There was no doubt, we were in the Avengers Tower. Dobie and I had somehow ended up in the Marvel Universe.
At first, I thought it was just a dream, but everything felt too real. The hum of cars, the chatter of people, and the roar of strange metal creatures flying above us. Suddenly, a familiar red and gold figure flashed through the sky. Iron Man! Before we could figure out what to do next, Tony Stark was already hovering in front of us, scanning us with his system. Judging by his tone, he wasn't thrilled about the sudden appearance of two talking dogs in police uniforms. Without wasting time on questions, he ordered us to follow him to Avengers Tower.
Inside the tower, we met Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, and Hulk. Each of them curiously studied us. Dobie tried to explain that we ended up here by accident, but no one seemed surprised. Apparently, in their world, such things weren't unusual. Before we could even process everything, an alarm blared through the building. Loki's face appeared on the screen. He announced that he was opening a portal and unleashing an army of Chitauri. The city was in danger of another invasion. Dobie and I exchanged glances. There was no way we were sitting this one out.
Tony handed me a strange device. From his explanation, it could temporarily close portals. Meanwhile, Labrador grabbed the nearest shield, which turned out to be Captain America's spare. By the time we rushed outside, the battle had already begun. Chitauri swarmed the city, attacking civilians and destroying buildings. Iron Man soared through the air, firing at enemies. Thor struck with lightning, and Hulk just smashed everything in sight. I noticed a group of civilians trapped by the aliens. I had to act fast.
I covered Dobie, blocking several laser shots with the shield. He dashed forward and activated the device. A flash, and one of the portals collapsed. That's when we realized we could help the Avengers shut down the rifts faster. Captain America nodded at us and hurled his shield at another group of enemies. I couldn't resist. I mimicked his move and threw the shield I had. It struck two Chitauri and miraculously returned to my paws. The feeling was incredible. Then suddenly, Loki leaped at us from the rooftop.
I realized he had chosen us as an easy target, but before he could strike, Thor hit him with a bolt of lightning. Loki crashed to the ground but quickly got up, smirking. He said that even if we closed the portals, he would find another way to return. That made me uneasy. Did he have another plan? While Labrador and I kept Loki distracted, Tony worked on a device that could permanently shut all the portals. But time was running out.
Loki attacked again, this time using his magic. He created several illusions, making it impossible to spot the real him. But Dobie had an idea, using Tony's device against Loki himself. As soon as we activated it, Loki's magic glitched. The real Loki appeared right in front of us, disoriented. We couldn't waste this chance. Thor hurled his hammer, knocking Loki off his feet. At that exact moment, Tony finished calibrating the device and gave the signal.
I watched as the portals started collapsing one by one. The remaining Chitauri lost connection to their ships and fell powerless. The city was finally returning to normal. Loki was captured, and the Avengers thanked us for our help. Iron Man admitted that without us, the battle could have lasted much longer. But one question remained. How would we get home?
Tony and Doctor Strange worked together to find a way to send us back. They created a portal that would open a time rift leading home. We said our goodbyes to the Avengers, stepped through the portal, and
we woke up in our town. Everything was as it had been before. Quiet streets, peaceful citizens, just another normal day. But we knew it was real. We had an incredible story, one no one would ever believe. But most importantly, we proved that no matter the universe, we were still sheriffs, ready to fight for what's right.
It was a hot day, and Dobie and I were patrolling the waterfront, enjoying the peace and fresh air. Suddenly, a scream echoed through the air. We turned quickly and saw a person struggling in the water, unable to get out. The person was going under, and I knew we had to act fast. I jumped into the water, feeling the coldness pierce through my paws. Dobie didn't hesitate and threw me a life ring, which I grabbed and brought to the drowning person.
I stayed on the shore, watching the situation unfold. Labrador grabbed the life ring and began pulling the person toward us. I tightened the rope, helping them move forward. The water was rough, but Labrador didn't lose a second. When they reached the shore, I helped the person up. He was coughing and breathing heavily, but he was okay, though clearly shaken. We sat him on a bench and gave him some water.
The people standing nearby started approaching, some bringing towels, others offering help. We waited for the medics, who quickly examined the person. Fortunately, he had just swallowed some water and was in shock. But overall, everything turned out fine. Dobie and I exchanged glances. It was a challenging experience, but we handled it.
Once the person was okay, we resumed our patrol. Sometimes it feels like our job is just about catching criminals, but in reality, it's much more than that. We saved a life, and that was our most important.
Hello, friends. Today, Dobie and I have a new mission. We entered the game Roblox and found ourselves in a school. But this is no ordinary school. It has been taken over by an evil gym teacher. There are no more lessons, no students, only silence and chaos. We must stop him and restore order.
I can already see that the situation is serious. Desks are overturned, textbooks are scattered on the floor, lockers are open, and at the end of the hallway, there's a huge banner. Here, PE rules! Labrador, it looks like this teacher has turned the school into his personal gym. We need to act fast before things get worse.
We move forward, but the school seems to come alive. The doors behind us slam shut, and now there's no way out. The only path is forward. I can feel that the teacher is nearby. He's definitely watching us. We need to be ready for any traps.
The hallways look strange. Some walls are crooked, staircases lead to nowhere, and the old school clocks are frozen at the same time. Something is definitely wrong. We carefully make our way forward, staying alert. Soon we'll have to face his challenges, but we won't back down.
We enter the first classroom. Everything is upside down. The board is broken, desks are piled up, and even the posters on the walls worn. Run faster, or you'll stay here forever. This is clearly not just a school, but we are sheriffs, and our job is to save this world.
Getting through this class wasn't easy, but we managed. Beyond it, we found a long hallway leading to the gym. I can already hear the sound of heavy footsteps. The gym teacher is nearby. He doesn't want us to reach him, which means we're on the right track.
The walls are covered with certificates of athletic achievements, but they are scribbled with strange words. The weak do not survive. PE is power. This teacher has gone too far. We need to stop him before the school turns into a nightmare from which no one can escape.
We approach the gym doors. They are massive, made of iron, with the words, "Only the strongest may enter." Behind them awaits the main villain of this school, the teacher himself. It's time for the final showdown.
The doors burst open with a loud crash, and we find ourselves in a massive gym. Old benches line the walls. Rules of training are scribbled everywhere, and in the center stands him. Huge, wearing a tracksuit with a menacing glare. He crosses his arms and smirks at us.
This teacher looks intimidating, but we won't be scared so easily. He clearly wants to test our strength. He's strong and fast, but we're no amateurs either. The key is to stick together, stay calm, and find his weaknesses.
The battle begins. The gym teacher moves fast, but we dodge his attacks. Every step we take brings us closer to victory. He tries to corner us, but we find a way out and keep fighting.
The fight is intense. The teacher throws sports equipment at us, but we skillfully avoid all obstacles. He's not as confident as he was at the start. His energy is draining, but we don't give up. Just a little more, and the school will be free.
And now the final push. The teacher is defeated. He admits his loss and vanishes. The school is under our control again, and now students can return. We did it, Dobie.
Yes, Labrador, this mission wasn't easy, but we did it! Evil has been defeated, the school is saved, and order has been restored. We proved that no one can take over the school, as long as the sheriffs are on duty. Great job!
Today, I'm going to tell you a story that started as a routine call but turned into a true test for me and Officer Dobie. It was a day we would never forget. It all began with a distressing call from worried parents. They said their children were staying late at school, and those who did leave looked completely exhausted. We immediately set off to investigate. The school looked strange. The windows were covered with curtains, the yard was empty, and the doors were locked. It seemed like no one was inside. But as soon as we tried to open the door, a loud, commanding voice echoed from the school's intercom.
I recognized that voice instantly. It was Coach Bully, the local gym teacher. He had always been strict, but no one expected him to go this far. His voice echoed through the halls. He declared that the school now belonged to him and that all students had to undergo a real training course. Those who failed the trials would stay in the school forever. He challenged us to prove our strength as well. Labrador and I exchanged glances. Backing down was not in our nature. The moment we stepped forward, iron gates slammed shut behind us. A screen on the wall lit up. Our first challenge was waiting.
We found ourselves in the gymnasium. In front of us was a long path with dozens of rubber balls flying across it at high speed. A single hit could send us tumbling back to the start. We started moving. I ducked as a ball whizzed past just inches from my head. Dobie dodged skillfully, but one ball clipped his side. He stumbled but quickly recovered. We realized that running straight through was a bad idea. We needed to use the equipment as cover. I signaled to Dobie, and we began moving in short bursts, using every column and bench for protection.
The balls kept coming, but we were faster. At the last moment, we leapt behind a wall that led to the next room. The moment we crossed the line, the balls stopped. The first trial was over, but there was no time to celebrate. Ahead of us, the schoolyard doors opened, revealing our next challenge.
On the school's running track, we faced our next test. Hanging from the ceiling were heavy weights, tied to ropes. The rule was simple. If you stopped or slowed down, the weights would drop on you. Coach Bully announced that we had exactly 5 minutes to complete 3 laps. We took off running. The first few meters were easy, but then the weights started swinging, creating new obstacles.
We sped up, trying to predict their movements. I felt one of the weights pass just inches from my back. Labrador barely dodged another. The final lap was the hardest. The weights were falling twice as fast, and we were running on sheer determination. Just as I was about to get caught, Labrador lunged forward and grabbed me by the scruff, pulling me out of danger. We tumbled across the finish line, and the weights came to a halt. Waiting ahead was Coach Bully himself.
We entered the main hall. Coach Bully stood in the center, surrounded by students. He was massive and muscular, and in his hands, he held a whistle, clearly not an ordinary one. He declared that this was the final trial. If we defeated him in a fair fight, the school would be free. If we lost, we would stay there forever.
His whistle turned out to be a weapon. The moment he blew into it, the sound wave hit us so hard that we nearly collapsed. We realized we had to take it from him. I dashed to the side, drawing his attention. Labrador seized the opportunity and lunged forward, knocking the whistle from Bully's hands. The coach roared in anger, but it was too late. Without his whistle, he lost his main advantage.
We used his size against him. As he charged at us, I positioned a gym mat under him, making him lose his balance. Dobie swept his legs out from under him, and Bully crashed to the floor. The students, seeing their greatest fear defeated, stood up to him. They surrounded him and declared that they would no longer obey his rule.
When it was over, the school doors opened and the children ran to freedom. We announced that the school was once again under the protection of the law. Coach Bully was sent for rehabilitation. From now on, PE class would be a place of fun, not fear.
That day taught us a valuable lesson. Victory isn't just about strength, it's about strategy, courage, and teamwork. We saved the school, and now we know, together, no villain stands a chance against us. That day, the world changed. Strange signals began to come from space. At first, we thought it was just static, but soon it became clear. It was a call from aliens. The sky was filled with lights, and we realized we had to act. Dobie and I immediately decided to get to the bottom of this.
Exactly, Labrador. As the signals became more frequent, we began to prepare. The aliens didn't just arrive. They were clearly planning something. We understood that we needed to be ready for anything. At first, they just observed. but soon they began to intensify their actions. We started losing contact with the outside world.
Realizing that we were being influenced, we immediately began constructing antennas to intercept their signals. Each message from them became more and more complex. I never imagined I'd face something like this. We had to figure out what they wanted from us.
When we started decrypting their messages, it became clear they were preparing for an invasion. We needed to find a way to stop them. At first, we tried negotiating, but they didn't respond. The aliens only strengthened their signals.
Our team developed a special device to block their signals. But as it turned out, that was just the beginning. When we started preparing for the final attack, the aliens began manipulating people, trying to break their will. We knew we had to act fast.
So we created an impulse generator that could destroy their connection. But it was risky. We knew that one mistake and everything could be lost. Nevertheless, we couldn't give up. We pressed the button and the generator started working.
When the generator activated, the aliens began to lose connection. Their ship slowed down, and we felt we had a chance. But it wasn't that simple. They started emitting energy waves, trying to destroy our generator. We had to strengthen the signal.
We connected additional devices. At the last moment, Labrador activated the final impulse that completely shut down the aliens. Their ships began to disintegrate, and the lights in the sky vanished. We won!
The world was saved, but we knew we couldn't relax. This victory taught us to be ready for anything. Dobie and I know that there could be other threats on Earth, and we'll be ready.
Yes, and the most important thing, we realized that together we can face any challenge. This experience became our lesson. We will stand guard over peace, ready to confront any threat.
A baby is chasing me, like and leave a comment to save me. Hello guys, we're in Roblox, and as you can see, we're in the escape from the big baby mode. I'm here, as always, in the role of the sheriff, ready to take on any challenge. We're in a daycare, but this is not the daycare I remember. Dobie and I have to save it because something terrible is happening right now. A mutant baby has taken over this world, and we need to navigate its traps and challenges to reach the end. Dobie, are you ready?
Yes, Labrador, I'm ready. I can see we've gotten ourselves into a serious mess, but no worries. The key is not to panic. This is the moment when every step counts. We need to be cautious and make quick decisions. You're right. This daycare isn't exactly what it should be. Everything's turned upside down. Our goal is to break through all these obstacles, find and defeat the mutant, and restore order to this world.
Exactly. First, we need to find a way through these blocked doors. According to the map, there are a few tough sections ahead. We have to be on guard because this mutant is definitely not resting. Look, over there. Behind that toy, something's moving in the shadows. Are you ready, Dobie?
All right, Labrador, it's time to act. If we stick together, no challenge will be too big for us. This place, I understand, is going to test us every step of the way. But honestly, I'd rather face an army of mutants than deal with a couple of random parkour obstacles. So, let's go. Let's do this.
You're right, Dobie. Let's do this. Let's see what challenges await us. I'm already ready to jump over these obstacles. I hope you're not scared.
Scared? You're the one who's scared. I know how to survive in the toughest situations. We've saved this world more than once, and this time will be no different. Just be ready, because I think the toughest challenge awaits us at the end. An army of mutants. But we're not the type to back down.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. All right, let's move forward. We're almost there. I feel like this mutant army isn't just a crowd. They're real monsters. But I think they're not ready for two sheriffs at our level. Dobie, when we get to them, let's act fast and in sync.
No panic, Labrador. We're getting ready for the big moment. Our victory. We'll get through all the parkour, overcome any traps, and even if we face an army of babies, we'll handle it. Remember, it all depends on us. So let's go. Let's move forward.
Hello, friends. It's me, Sheriff Labrador, and Officer Dobie and I have an unusual story for you. Today, we're going to tell you how mutant babies took over our city. Things escalated quickly, and believe me, it was something strange. Dobie and I had just finished our patrol. The sun was shining. Everything was calm. But suddenly we heard strange cries, like something unnatural. It didn't sound like the usual city noises.
When we got to the source of the sounds, I thought it was just mischief. Babies, what could they do? But when I saw these little creatures, I realized these were no ordinary kids. Small, with green eyes, they began to gather, and there was something in their gaze that made me uneasy. They looked like they knew exactly what they were doing.
And that's when I realized something was wrong. Mutants, even ones this small, were far more dangerous than we thought. They began moving through the streets like an organized group. They quickly took control of one of the districts. I saw one of them approach a streetlight and, believe it or not, turn it on. These kids weren't what we expected.
It wasn't just strange, it was terrifying. I thought they were helpless, but these mutants somehow hacked the security systems and began blocking the streets, fast. And they weren't just crawling around, they were actively taking control of the area, as if they knew exactly how to do it. I realized we needed to act immediately.
I suggested we split up. I'll take control of the streets and you, Dobie, protect the headquarters. We needed to act in coordination before these mutants took over the whole city.
You're right. We needed to block the key points quickly. I went to the headquarters, hoping I could organize a defense. The mutants didn't stop. They moved with such confidence. But when I got there, I realized they were already at the doorstep. It was too late to block the headquarters, so I had to find another way out.
I was struggling to break through their ranks, but they had become so strong that it was clear. Brute force alone wouldn't help. These little mutants knew how to control the city. The mutants weren't just taking the streets, they started controlling the electricity, water supply, and systems. They could hack anything.
And that's when I realized they weren't just taking over the territory. They could destroy infrastructure like real manipulators. I started working with the team to create barricades. But even with barricades, it wasn't easy. These mutants used their abilities to bypass our traps. They acted too smoothly.
Realizing we needed to act even faster, I gathered a group. The mutants were tightening the ring around the city. But no matter how hard we tried, they wouldn't stop. Every time we thought we had them cornered, they'd show up on the other side. And this was just the beginning.
Labrador and I knew we had to proceed with maximum caution. The whole team was on standby. We needed to not just defend the city, but take it back under control. The mutants were smart and quickly adapted to our actions, but we didn't give up.
Every minute was worth its weight in gold. Dobie and I realized that regular methods wouldn't help. We needed something radically new to stop the mutants. I gathered a group of officers to try to block their paths. We knew they weren't just attacking, they were following a plan. They didn't need much time to figure out how to act.
Labrador and I understood that we couldn't just run around the city trying to overpower them. These mutants were too smart for that. We needed to find their weak spot. I suggested trying to use their own abilities against them. If they were so good at controlling technology, maybe we could set traps using the same systems.
Dobie was right. We quickly built a few traps using the city's disabled systems. We triggered old alarms and loud sounds to confuse the mutants. But, as it turned out, they were ready for that too. When we started activating the traps, one of the mutants seemed to notice our move right away. He approached the control panel and literally turned off all our devices in a second. We didn't even have time to figure out how it happened.
These little guys started playing with us. Their intellect turned out to be far more developed than we thought. They controlled everything, from the old panels to communication systems. We started feeling like we were losing control. But Labrador didn't give up. He suggested going back to the old plan and luring the mutants into the city center. We set up a few fake groups at different points to distract them.
I knew it was risky, but we had no choice. We placed fake patrols in the most unexpected places, and it worked. The mutants went to where they thought we were, but they didn't expect that we would actually be in their center. As soon as they started focusing on the false targets, Dobie and my team slipped into their rear.
When we were among them, it was already too late. The mutants realized they had been tricked and began to tighten the ring around us. But we had one last chance. We launched the local barricade system to slow them down. This was the turning point. The mutants started retreating, realizing they couldn't handle such a trap.
We caught them in the trap, but they didn't give up. The little mutants tried to break through, using all their abilities. But we didn't let them escape. Time passed, and with every moment, we were getting closer to victory.
After a long standoff, we finally gained the upper hand. The mutants began to lose control. Their strength weakened. We managed to restore order to the city, but one thing was clear. We had to be ready for another attack.
Yes, we won, but the cost was high. This time we managed to regain control of the city, but who knows what will happen next? These mutants won't just disappear.
Next time, we'll be ready. We've learned an important lesson. Mutant babies are not just toys. They can be more dangerous than we thought. But we will protect our city no matter what.
After we won, the city slowly began to return to normal life. But in our hearts, the fear remained. We couldn't forget just how dangerous those little mutants turned out to be. No matter how hard we tried to relax, the thought that they might return haunted us. These kids weren't just helpless babies. They were something else, something hard to deal with.
Exactly, Labrador. We couldn't afford to let our guard down. We started working hard to improve the security systems, including installing new sensors and cameras that would allow us to detect any threat earlier. But even with these measures, we knew this wasn't the end. Deep down, I felt that they could come back. And if they did, they would be even stronger.
You're right, Dobie. But right now, we need to focus on preparing for our next encounter with them. And not just with them, but with any other potential threats. We've become stronger after this experience. The city is beginning to recover, but you and I, Officer Dobie, have a lot more work ahead of us. These aren't just local problems. We must be ready for any challenge that comes to our city.
I'm with you, Labrador. We're in this together, and that gives me confidence. You know, sometimes it feels like this was just a warning. Maybe there are other forces out there that haven't revealed themselves yet. But one thing I know for sure, if they come back, we'll be ready. We will protect this city from any threats, whether they're mutants, technology, or something much more dangerous.
But now, Dobie, let's take a little break from everything that's happened. We've done our job, but always remember, we are the ones standing guard over this city. Friends, quickly hit the like button and watch the video until the end, so that the evil doll lets me go. What? Where are we, Dobie?
I don't know, but it looks like a children's room with toys everywhere.
Wait, this is something strange. It looks like we've ended up in a room full of evil dolls. Hey everyone, today Dobie and I are trying to escape from the house of evil dolls.
Wow, what's ahead of us? Many scary trials and puzzles. Our goal is not just to get out, but to defeat the evilest doll.
Look at this room. It has a strange atmosphere, kind of like childhood memories.
I agree. We've come back to our childhood, but this is definitely not the place we'd want to be.
It seems like we need to go through this narrow passage. It looks like it leads straight to the house. I hope the doll doesn't start hunting us right away.
We found some candy. I wouldn't try it. Who knows? Maybe she poisoned them. We need to collect 10 of these candies.
Looks like we need to jump here. Let's put that off for now and explore the house. Maybe we'll find something useful.
Here's another candy. Yay! A checkpoint. This means if we die, we can come back here. Look at how much she loves her portraits. Seems like you took your words too literally. It wasn't worth dying just to check. I thought you could go through there. There's another hole ahead. Should we go down? It looks like a place straight from hell, but not exactly.
There's a mountain of dishes here.
For me, a mountain of dishes is real hell.
I hate washing dishes. I actually like it. I turn on my favorite music and sing along. It really lifts my mood.
Strange. Looks like no one's cleaned here in years. Maybe she just buys new dishes instead of washing the old ones.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can't find another explanation for this mess.
It seems like we still have a long way to go. I can't see the end. These arrows seem hypnotic, like they were made to cause hallucinations.
Did you notice? The floor is like lava, but roses are growing in it. Looks like hallucinations.
I see them too. Nice, we've reached another checkpoint. Seems like the end is near. I hope there's no parkour ahead.
I'm a little tired already. These toys, I feel like there's something sinister about them. Maybe the souls of children are trapped inside.
Brr, creepy. By the way, did you know that the toys in the game Poppy Playtime aren't actually bloody, but a mix of red poppy? I've been studying the plot of this game recently. It's pretty interesting.
No, I didn't know that. I'll have to check it out sometime. But look, we've been tricked. This isn't the end. However, I can see a house in the distance. Looks like we need to head there.
Let's hurry. I even see a Ferris wheel. That looks like an interesting place. I wish the amusement park were near the police station. Hey, Labrador, have you ever thought about candy?
Of course, who doesn't love it? Do you have a favorite candy?
I think my favorites are chocolate candies with nuts. What about you?
I prefer caramel candies. They're so tasty, like sweet music in the middle of the workday.
Sometimes caramel is a real lifesaver. But you know what's better than candy? I don't know. Maybe even more candy.
Just look at her. Why is she sitting there, staring at us and not even greeting us?
It seems like she's pretending to be a lifeless doll, but in reality, she's watching us. That's much creepier.
Maybe we need to find a way to open the gate. Here's a button. We need to press 3 of them. It also says we can hide. Clearly, a dangerous trial awaits us.
Let's go. Look, she's coming down on her long braids. How does she even see anything with those eyes?
Oh no, let's hide quickly. We need to observe her from a safe place.
Let's climb higher. Maybe she won't see us.
Did you see her braids flashing past the room? I would hold my breath.
Let's not forget our main task. We still need to press 2 more buttons.
Good thing we looked around. It's always useful to check everything. There are many rooms here where we can hide, so this trial won't be too hard for us, especially with our experience.
I keep hearing her whispering. It's really unsettling.
The City of Beasts has always been a place where the most unusual events happened. But one of the strangest occurrences took place when the candy monster appeared. It all started when a new candy factory opened in our city. All the residents, especially the children, were thrilled. The factory promised the most delicious and unusual candies. But soon, strange things began to happen. The children complained that the candies started behaving strangely. They seemed to come to life and move. Things got even worse when a real monster, made of sweet treats, broke free from the factory.
This candy monster was terrifying. It was huge, with caramel eyes and lollipop teeth. Every time it stepped on the ground, the sound of cracking candy filled the air, and the atmosphere was filled with a sweet but unpleasant odor. It began to destroy everything in its path. Stores, homes, and even roads. Labrador and I had to intervene urgently. We started investigating what exactly caused the appearance of this monster. We found out that all the candies at the factory were made using experimental ingredients that gave them monstrous power, but also caused unusual mutations.
Dobie and I decided to act quickly. There was no time for a long investigation. We needed to stop the monster urgently. Using our skills and new technology, we managed to find its weak spot. Upon arriving at the factory, we discovered that, despite its terrifying appearance, the monster was actually vulnerable. All the candies that made up the monster were controlled by a single mechanism. We realized that if we disrupted this mechanism, the monster would disappear.
We decided to infiltrate the factory where the monster was created. It was dangerous, as each step could lead to further destruction. But Labrador and I acted swiftly and confidently. Soon, we found the most important part of the factory, a secret storage of the ingredients used to create these living candies. We destroyed the special machine that generated them and immediately began to notice the monster losing its strength. It started to shrink and disappear until it turned into a pile of regular candies.
When the candy monster vanished, the city was once again filled with peace and tranquility. The factory was closed, and all its dangerous ingredients were destroyed. Dobie and I returned to the station, reflecting on how unusual events can affect our city. We realized that sometimes even the most harmless things, like candies, can lead to real catastrophes. But thanks to our teamwork and skills, we managed to stop this threat.
After we defeated the candy monster, our city returned to normal life. Labrador and I understood that it's not only important to solve problems, but also to prevent them, so such disasters don't happen again. The city became safe again, and the children could once again enjoy their sweets without fear. But we always remembered this incident because, as strange as it sounds, candies might not be as harmless as they seem.
In our City of Beasts, there has always been no shortage of unexpected events, but one day something truly unusual happened. It all began the day the circus came to town. Among the many attractions and shows was a huge toy store. All the little animals eagerly went there to pick out new toys. But by evening, Dobie and I received a strange call. A mysterious virus had infected the toy store, causing all the dolls in the shop to come to life. They began to move and speak, and some of them became aggressive, causing panic among the children and parents.
When we arrived at the scene, the situation was already under control, but the tension in the air was palpable. We saw the dolls in the shop's windows one by one, standing up and crawling out. Some of them looked friendly, but others, not so much. They started marching through the city, scaring the residents. It was clear that this virus, which had infected the toys, was far more serious than we had thought. Instead of delighting children, the dolls had become a threat to the whole community. Labrador and I immediately began our investigation.
It turned out that the virus that turned the toys into living beings was the result of an experiment by a scientist who once worked with circus dolls, trying to create robots that could mimic living creatures. He had accidentally created something that developed self-awareness. These dolls were no longer just toys. They began to think and make decisions. Some of them didn't like being mere toys for children, and they decided they needed more freedom.
Realizing that we were up against not just ordinary toys, but sentient beings, Labrador and I decided to proceed with caution. We started tracking the dolls' every movement, but they were too fast and agile. We needed to find a way to stop the virus that had brought them to life, or else they could take over the entire city. We set up special equipment to investigate how the virus worked, and soon discovered its source, a strange control panel hidden at the center of the toy store.
We quickly infiltrated the store, and with the help of special devices, we disabled the control panel. But, unfortunately, the virus had already spread so much that even without a control source, the dolls kept moving. However, when we activated the program to neutralize the virus, the dolls began to slow down and eventually stopped altogether. It felt like a miracle, but we knew that it wasn't just about defeating these animated toys. We also needed to figure out how to prevent similar incidents in the future.
Once all the dolls had returned to being just toys, Labrador and I went back to the station to assess the damage and analyze how we could prevent such situations. We realized that even the most harmless things, like dolls, can lead to big problems if they're not properly controlled. But the most important thing was that we had prevented a disaster and restored safety to the city.
That's it, friends. We finally defeated the evil doll queen. This battle was a real challenge. See you soon, friends. Save us, friends. Watch the video until the end so we can escape from here. Hello, everyone. So, are you ready to defeat all these running heads? Today, we're going to escape from the running head.
Yes, hey guys, but this won't be easy because there are tough challenges ahead. Please give us a like. It will really help us. And watch until the end so we can defeat everyone.
Exactly, Dobie. But since we're sheriffs, nothing will scare us. Except, well, I'll tell you about that at the end, because everyone has their secrets.
Look, the first running head, but it's very slow, so we can ignore it. Ah, this is easy. But what's ahead of us?
Don't lose vigilance. There might be a lot of traps around.
This maze is simple. There's no ceiling, so we can peek and see where to go.
Great. Behind this barrier, they won't catch us.
I want to see how smart they are.
That was risky, but I love taking risks too. It's part of our job.
Yes, the key is always to plan your actions and have a backup plan for unexpected situations.
Look, they're getting closer. We need to stay alert.
They move strangely and are now stuck together. It looks like they're kissing. Weird.
I can't even imagine how they walk without legs.
Look, a giant head is blocking the way to the finish. We need to find a way to bypass it.
I see. This looks like a focus test. We took these when we became sheriffs.
There are 3 heads in a narrow passage. We'll have to use parkour skills.
Oh no, they're kissing again. Let's turn away so we don't get distracted. Maybe they're doing this on purpose to confuse us.
It looks like that giant head, but fortunately, it's slow and not very smart. We'll easily outsmart it.
Seems like we're close to the end of the first stage. It's just around the corner. Oh, there was a trap here. That's what happens when you lose focus. But since we're not on a mission, it's not scary. Play for fun, guys. You're right. This ladder leads to the portal to the next stage. Let's go.
Looks like we're in some wooden house. There are 2 doors. Let's go left.
He's standing with his back to us, though he doesn't have a back. I think he's facing us.
We need to slip through quickly while he's distracted by the other hole in the wall.
He's standing with his back to us, though he doesn't have a back. I think he's facing us. I don't even know. Oh, I wanted to say that I don't know where to go. Why is he standing? This is unpredictable.
I think this is designed to scare us. Where to go? I'm not sure. Since the monitor can't emit smells, we can't rely on instincts, so we're going blindly. The key is not to turn around so we don't end up back at the start.
Great. We've reached the checkpoint. We're halfway through the maze. Checkpoints aren't placed for no reason. There may be danger ahead.
Oh, let's quickly slip through the gap before that head wakes up. Another checkpoint, great.
This is a new element of the challenge. We need to turn at the right time so the head doesn't catch us in its mouth.
Oh my God, we got distracted and missed the turn. It's okay. We got the point and we'll quickly go back. Remember, Lab, When we used to play horror games as kids.
Of course, those evenings with popcorn and the old computer. We cursed that creepy monastery so many times.
I wonder how that influenced our work now.
I think it taught us not to panic in the dark. Remember when we first faced that case in the abandoned mine?
Yes, all those sounds and rustling. It felt like something out of an old game.
But thanks to our childhood obsession, we stayed calm and figured it out. No mysticism, just work.
And strangely, it still helps us. I'm glad we spent those horror-filled evenings together.
Me too, Dobie. In our world, every day feels like a horror movie, but we're always ready.
We're on stage 3. Let's keep going. Looks like another maze.
I hope it will be more interesting and challenging. The first one was boring.
It was just preparing us. There are many new mobs at this level. They scared me. Terrifying.
An amazing story took place in our animal town, one that began with very strange events. It all started when we noticed a strange glow in the sky. It didn't look like a regular meteor, and we immediately realized that something was happening. Soon, much to our surprise, aliens appeared from this glow. They were quite unusual. Imagine, they looked like running heads from a Roblox game. These creatures wore bright costumes and were full of enthusiasm.
When they landed, they declared that they didn't come to harm our city, but to become our fans. They loved everything related to our adventures, our city, and they even started copying us, recording our actions and movements just in case. We thought it was just a joke, but when they began setting up fan clubs and running ads about us on their planet, we realized something was wrong.
And that's when the most interesting part began. The aliens told us that they weren't just fans, but that they actually wanted to take over our city and turn it into their fan zone. They were ready to build monuments, organize festivals, and take all of us to their planet to make us symbols of their culture. But that wouldn't be very convenient for us, right? We like our city here, and we weren't planning to move to some foreign place that doesn't suit us.
And so, when we realized that the aliens were seriously determined, we decided to take action. You can't just stop them because they weren't just huge fans. They were also very powerful beings. We needed to come up with something special. And then Labrador and I came up with a brilliant idea. We decided to create our clones and send them to the alien planet. The clones would essentially be our doubles, entertaining the aliens and showing them that our place on Earth is our home, not their planet.
We turned to our best engineers and inventors, and they helped us create unique cloning devices. With this technology, we created several copies of ourselves, identical to us, but of course, without our memories and personal lives. We sent them to the alien planet. The clones began to work for the aliens, entertaining them and showing them how to properly set up a fan club and, most importantly, how to live in peace and harmony.
When the aliens saw these doubles, they were so amazed that they couldn't believe their eyes. Our clones did everything they were asked to do, and even more. Soon, the aliens realized that their love for our city didn't need to be so obsessive. They understood that we love our city and want to stay here with our friends and family.
In the end, the aliens agreed that our city would stay on Earth and they would return to their planet. We offered them to stay as our friends, not fans, but real friends. As a token of gratitude, they gave us some interesting technologies and promised not to interfere in our affairs anymore. They even built a fan zone for themselves, where they could read about our city and follow our adventures without disturbing us.
And so, the animal city was safe again, and the aliens no longer tried to take us over. Everything ended peacefully, and we all returned to our usual activities. We learned that it's important to respect each other's boundaries, even if someone adores you. And the clones who helped us buy time went down in history as our loyal helpers.
We're going to tell you a story that happened in our town. It all started with rumors. Someone had settled in the forest not far from the town, and everything that people brought there was disappearing. At first, small things, then bigger items. The townspeople started to panic, but Dobie and I decided that it was probably just a rumor. After all, there's always an explanation for everything.
But when Mr. Bobby's toys disappeared, we realized we needed to act. I wasn't too scared, but something wasn't right. Labrador and I decided to check the forest, even though we didn't believe in the supernatural. As soon as we approached the forest, I felt that something strange was going on. It was eerily quiet, and suddenly I heard a strange sound, like something moving on the ground. And then, from the shadows, a strange figure emerged.
I was ready for anything, but this was something I wasn't expecting. The shadow was tall with long arms, and its eyes glowed like two fires in the night. Dobie and I froze, and it was clear that this wasn't an ordinary creature. We started moving forward, but everything around us seemed wrong. The forest became unnaturally silent, and there were no rustling leaves, no sounds from the animals. We soon reached the center of the forest, where there was a strange tree, and that's where everything had been happening.
Under the tree, we found a strange hole. Inside was an old book. Everything around was covered in dust, and the pages of the book were charred. We realized that this wasn't just any book, but an ancient artifact linked to dark forces. Inside were descriptions of rituals that allowed the opening of gateways between worlds. And that's when we understood that something dark was beginning to seep into our world.
Suddenly, we heard that same rustling sound again. Something was moving in our direction. It was the same shadow. We couldn't wait any longer. Grabbing the book, we began to read aloud, trying to find a way to stop it. At that moment, the shadow started approaching at incredible speed, but there was no turning back. We began to chant the incantation, and right before us, the light started to dim, and then the shadow disappeared.
The darkness that had enveloped the forest began to dissipate. When we returned to the town, the townspeople were in shock over what had happened, but we calmed them down. The forest was quiet again, but we knew we had to stay prepared. We don't fully understand what we encountered, but one thing was clear: the danger was real.
Well, friends, our battle with that huge running head is over. But that's not all. Soon we'll tackle the next parts. This was a real challenge, and I'm sure we were lucky to find the exit in time. Just look at this massive chaos it left behind.
Yes, Labrador, it was a real nightmare. The entire map was full of traps, and we barely managed to escape from it. But in the end, we showed that we're not afraid of such challenges. Even though the head was constantly chasing us, we found the strength and bravely overcame all the obstacles.
Guys, help me out, please. Leave a like and write a comment to save me. Hello everyone, guys. It's me, Sheriff Labrador, and today we will be going through various challenges and parkour courses to save the school from the evil teacher who has taken over and is keeping the students in fear. Dobie, say hello.
Hi, friends. It's me, Dobie, and as Labrador said, today we will be facing challenges and protecting the students from the evil teacher. This will be a tough mission, but I'm sure we can handle it, right, Labrador?
Of course, Dobie. Our first challenge will be escaping from the evil teacher who is clearly not happy with our presence and wants to stop us from saving the school and the children. Dodging pools of acid, we run away from him.
Labrador, we managed to pass the first challenge and escape from the evil teacher, but this is far from over. There are many more challenges ahead, each one getting significantly harder. Let's move on to the next challenge. Labrador, over to you.
Thanks, Dobie. Our next challenge will be an exciting parkour course over sharp spikes. If we fall, we automatically lose and won't be able to save the children. The evil teacher is watching us from a distance. He clearly doesn't like us. But we won't give up. We will save the school and the kids.
Keep it up, Labrador. We completed this challenge and are moving on to the next one. Now, we need to cross thin pipes over a pit filled with giant spinning spikes. We also have to press 2 buttons to unlock the door that will take us to the next level.
Yes, just as Dobie said, we are going through tough challenges to save the school because we are sheriffs, and it's our duty to protect the safety and well-being of the citizens.
Well said, Labrador. We passed this challenge and are ready to move on to the next one.
Now we face a giant air tunnel that will lift us up. But it won't be easy. There are lasers inside the tunnel, and one mistake will wipe out all our progress. Carefully dodging them, we finally clear this level and move on. Dobie, tell us what you see in the next level.
All right, Labrador. In this level, we face huge trap books. If we step on them, we lose. But with our skills, we can easily get through this and move on to the next level.
The next stage is a battle against the evil librarian Grandma. We must defeat her because she has been helping the evil teacher take over the school.
Labrador, this is going to be a tough battle, but we can't give up. If we lose, what will happen to the children in the school? We fight with all our strength and we did it! Great job, Labrador!
Thanks, Dobie. You did great too. Let's not waste time and move on to the next challenge.
Agreed, Labrador. In this level, we need to pick up a giant iron beam to create a path for ourselves because the gaps between platforms are too big. Without the beam, we would fall.
We carefully place the beam and cross from platform to platform. Phew! This challenge is behind us. Now we step onto a wooden platform, press a button, and descend.
In the next level, we must walk across a long iron pipe and then dodge massive spiked balls. If they hit us, we are definitely in trouble.
But that's not all. We have to jump across pencils over a lake of acid. If we fall, it won't end well for us.
We absolutely cannot fall, Labrador. Everything will be fine. Woohoo! We passed this challenge, and now we can move on to the next one.
In the final challenge, we must battle the giant boss teacher. This will be the ultimate and toughest fight, but we must emerge victorious.
Exactly, Labrador. Our motto is, never give up and save everyone. That's why we have to win. As we engage in battle with the boss, we hit him with a bazooka and dodge the giant red balls he fires from his cannon.
After a tough fight, we emerge victorious, saving the school and the children. What an inspiring and kind mission we had today. Once again, we proved to everyone that we can rescue anyone from any situation and keep goodness and order in the world. This morning started off quietly, but we both knew nothing stays quiet for too long in the city of animals. Dobie and I had just finished our morning coffee at the station when an urgent call came in. No one had seen the children or teachers leaving the Knowledge and Friendship School, and when parents arrived to pick them up, they found all the doors sealed shut. Witnesses claimed they saw the windows closing on their own and a tall, dark figure moving inside the school.
When we arrived, the building looked eerie. Its tall windows were covered in a murky film. The doors seemed fused into the brickwork, and a strange shadow loomed over the roof. Parents were pacing near the entrance, some desperately trying to call their children, but their phones weren't working. Labrador and I exchanged a look. This was no ordinary case.
The first step was getting inside. The main entrances were blocked, but the fire escape at the back was still accessible. We climbed up to the second floor window, and I shattered the glass. The moment we stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind us, as if the school itself had decided to trap us.
The school's hallways seemed endless. The bulletin boards were covered in strange equations that changed whenever we looked away. A faint scent of chalk and old paper lingered in the air. In the distance, slow, heavy footsteps echoed through the halls, as if someone were dragging their feet along the floor. We turned on our flashlights and moved forward.
The first thing we found was the teacher's lounge. The desks had neatly stacked notebooks, but all the chairs were overturned. On the chalkboard, someone had written a single word: test. Before we could figure out what it meant, the walls trembled and the room transformed. Suddenly, we were standing in a massive classroom, and in front of us stood a dark figure.
The teacher was tall, with thin, branch-like arms and a sinister grin frozen on his face. His voice echoed through the room as he announced that we had to pass a series of challenges or the school would remain trapped in a nightmare. Desks with exam papers appeared before us, and floating clocks in the air began counting down.
The first challenge: solve the problems before time ran out. But as soon as we picked up the pens, the letters on the paper started shifting, rearranging themselves. We had to focus and find the logical pattern. We both thought quickly, but the clock was ticking. At the last second, Dobie spotted the hidden order in the chaos, and the exams disappeared. The wall ahead of us slid open.
The next challenge was a labyrinth of hallways. Every turn was a trick, and the teacher's footsteps were growing louder behind us. We noticed chalk marks on the floor and decided to follow them. At one point, long, shadowy hands reached out from the walls, trying to grab us. But Labrador pulled out his baton and fought them off. We sprinted toward a door at the end of the corridor.
Beyond the door was the gymnasium, but it wasn't as we remembered. Floating chalkboards hovered in the air, and basketball hoops had turned into gaping mouths. The teacher told us we had to beat him in a game. If we made 3 shots, we could free the children. But with each throw, the hoops moved faster and the balls kept changing weight.
We didn't give up. I distracted the traps while Labrador calculated the perfect shots. The first ball went in, then the second. Just as we threw the third, the floor beneath us began to crack. The ball swished through the hoop, and suddenly, the gymnasium vanished. We found ourselves in the auditorium, where frightened children stood on stage.
The teacher roared. his form breaking apart into a swirling storm of letters and equations. We grabbed the children and ran as the exit finally opened. The moment we stepped outside, the school returned to normal, and sunlight spilled onto the streets.
Parents rushed to their children, and the school looked just as it always had. But on the board near the entrance, a strange message remained. Lesson over. Until next time. Labrador and I exchanged glances. Something told us this wasn't over.
A few days after the incident at the school, Dobie and I combed through reports, searching for any clue. Everything seemed back to normal. The children were safe, the school had reopened, but we couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't truly over. The last message on the board still haunted us. Lesson over. Until next time. We checked the security cameras, but every single one had shut off the moment the teacher appeared. The only salvaged footage showed a school hallway hours before the incident. A shadowy figure flickered on the screen, tall, with elongated arms and a disturbingly crooked head. It seemed to glide along the walls before dissolving into the air.
I couldn't shake the feeling that the teacher would return. We decided to go back to the school at night, when it would be empty. The principal agreed to lend us the keys, but warned us that strange things started happening in the building as soon as the sun went down. That evening, when we entered the school, everything seemed normal. We walked past the classrooms, checked the auditorium and the library. Nothing out of the ordinary. But as soon as we reached the gym, the door slammed shut behind us and the lights cut out.
From the darkness came a familiar sound, slow, dragging footsteps. Then, dim lights flickered on, revealing the teacher standing before us once again. But this time, he looked different. His suit was torn, and his eyes burned with a red glow. He stared at us and declared that the lessons would continue, but not for the children, for us. A blackboard appeared in front of us, covered in strange symbols. The teacher announced that if we didn't solve the mystery of the school, we would remain Every day in our city starts differently. Sometimes it's peaceful, patrolling the streets, handling complaints, rescuing kittens from trees. And sometimes it turns into a real nightmare. Today was, without a doubt, one of the worst. I had just poured myself a cup of coffee when the radio crackled sharply, and the dispatcher's voice came through with such urgency that my morning drowsiness disappeared instantly. Something strange was happening at the Central City Hospital. Witnesses reported eerie sounds, screams, and laughter. Yes, genuine, sinister laughter echoing through the hospital's speakers. As I processed this information, the door to the station burst open and Dobie rushed in. He was holding a box of donuts, but the moment he saw my face, he set it down on the table, forgetting about breakfast. I briefly explained the situation, and within minutes, we were racing toward the scene in our police car.
When we arrived, it was immediately clear. This wasn't a normal call. All the hospital windows were covered with black curtains, and on the glass of the main entrance hung a strange poster. A perfect smile is the key to life. Below the words was a terrifying grin with perfectly straight but unnaturally sharp teeth. A crowd had gathered outside. People murmured in fear, some trying to call their loved ones inside. But no one answered. The hospital seemed like a sealed-off world, one that no one could enter or leave. As soon as we approached the doors, a voice boomed from the speakers. Deep, hoarse, but with fake cheerfulness. "Welcome to the Center for the Perfect Smile, Sheriffs. We've been expecting you." Then, with a loud click, the doors groaned open.
Usually, when doors open by themselves, it's a sign you should stay away. But we had no choice. There could be injured people, hostages, or worse inside. We stepped in. Inside, an eerie silence reigned. The dim lights flickered, making it feel like we had entered an abandoned clinic. Medical posters hung everywhere, but their messages were distorted. Everyone must smile. Don't be afraid, this won't hurt. Your teeth belong to me. I took a step forward and suddenly felt something sticky under my paws. Looking down, I saw the floor covered in a substance resembling toothpaste, but with a strong chemical smell.
The hallway stretched forward, leading us deeper into the hospital. We could hear faint noises, like whispering behind the walls, but too indistinct to understand. A shiver ran down my spine. Suddenly, a man in a white coat dashed around the corner. He was gasping for breath, his eyes filled with terror. A doctor! He grabbed my arm, squeezing it so tightly that I knew he was on the edge of panic. Stop him! Stop him before it's too late! He wheezed. But before we could ask him anything, a deafening alarm blared, and the doctor convulsed as if struck by electricity. I turned just in time to see a mechanical arm extend from the wall, ending in a long, gleaming needle. It stabbed into the doctor's neck. He froze, then slowly collapsed to the floor. We stepped back. Disobedient patients shouldn't be wandering around the hospital, the voice from the speakers sneered.
It was clear now. Everything here was automated, and one person was controlling this madness. The twisted dentist who had taken over the hospital. We moved forward, passing rooms filled with horrifying tools. In one of them, a dental chair stood surrounded by mechanical arms, each holding sharp instruments. X-rays lined the walls, but they weren't normal. Every jaw on them had elongated, pointed teeth, as if someone had deliberately altered them. Dobie muttered a curse under his breath. We needed to find the head doctor, or someone from the staff who could explain what was happening.
We reached the main hall, where a massive statue stood in the center of a tooth, a giant, gleaming human tooth, enlarged dozens of times. Its surface shone as if it were made of real enamel. Then he appeared. A loud screech echoed from the speakers, followed by an eerily cheerful voice. Oh, finally! I've been waiting for you, sheriffs. We turned and saw a figure emerging from the shadows, tall and thin, dressed in a long white coat, yet moving with an unnerving puppet-like fluidity. His yellow-lensed glasses reflected the dim light, and his mouth stretched into an unnatural grin. Dr. Pearl at your service? Ready for your checkup?
I clenched my teeth and stepped forward, but suddenly the walls began to shift. The floor trembled, and the giant tooth statue started splitting open, revealing a deep, dark shaft beneath it. You won't leave until your treatment is complete. That's when I realized it was a trap. We were standing in the center of the room, surrounded by walls that were slowly closing in.
We had little time. I spotted a control panel near the door and rushed toward it. At the last second, I managed to hack the system, and the walls stopped moving. But that was just the beginning. Dr. Pearl clapped his hands, and figures began emerging from the shaft beneath the statue. Patients, but twisted. Their mouths were frozen in wide, grotesque smiles, and in their hands they clutched massive metallic toothbrushes. We braced ourselves for the final battle.
When the patients began crawling out of the shaft, their mouths unnaturally stretched into wide grins, clutching massive metallic toothbrushes in their hands, I realized they weren't just hypnotized hostages. Their movements were jerky, mechanical, as if someone was controlling them like puppets. Dr. Pearl stood off to the side, arms crossed over his chest, watching with pleasure. The flickering lights cast his elongated shadow on the walls, making him seem even taller. Dobie and I exchanged glances. We had to come up with something fast before we were completely surrounded. I was the first to charge forward, ducking under the massive toothbrush swung by one of the patients. He smashed it into the floor, shattering it into pieces, but immediately, as if on command, two more lunged at me, aiming their strange weapons at my head.
I knew Pearl was controlling them, but how? We needed to find the source of the signal. I blocked a toothbrush strike, kicking the nearest patient's arm. He flinched but kept moving, as if he couldn't feel pain. Then I noticed it. Each of them had a small metallic box embedded in the skin at the back of their necks. I understood. These were control devices. Labrador was fighting off 3 at once, while I jumped at the closest patient and ripped the box from his neck. A strange crackling noise sounded, and he instantly collapsed to the floor like a broken toy. They're connected to a system, I shouted. We have to disable the main transmitter. Dr. Pearl laughed, his teeth gleaming under the flickering lights.
I knocked one of the patients aside and quickly scanned the room. There had to be a control center somewhere in this hall. That's when I noticed a metallic panel on the wall, standing out among the hospital's old-fashioned decor. Without hesitation, I yanked out my baton and hurled it straight at the panel. A loud screech followed, sparks flying in all directions. For a second, the patients froze, but then they started moving again. The transmitter had to be somewhere else. Pearl sighed and took a step forward. What a disappointment, sheriffs. I thought you were smarter.
And then I saw it. Under his lab coat, something faintly glowed on his chest. A barely noticeable green light. I remembered how old radio transmitters worked. Sometimes, to distribute a signal across an entire system, the host had to be at the center of it. That could only mean one thing. Pearl himself was the main transmitter. I signaled Labrador and pretended to attack from the front. Pearl smirked, but in that moment, Labrador lunged from the side, pulled out a taser, and pressed it directly to the evil dentist's chest. Electricity surged through his body, and he convulsed like a mannequin on broken springs. At that moment, all the patients around us froze, then slowly began to collapse to the floor. Their hands no longer gripped the oversized toothbrushes, and their faces, now free of those grotesque smiles, showed only exhaustion and confusion.
Dr. Pearl fell to his knees, his pristine lab coat now crumpled and stained. You don't understand? He gasped, his voice suddenly uncertain. I grabbed him by the collar. We understand just fine. You wanted to turn everyone into your test subjects, but your hospital is closed for good.
As we cuffed him, the hospital doors finally unlocked and our colleagues stormed inside. Doctors and patients began to regain consciousness, slowly realizing what had happened. I glanced at the giant tooth statue. It now looked utterly ridiculous. You know, I said to Labrador, after this, I definitely won't be visiting the dentist anytime soon. He chuckled. Just don't forget to brush your teeth. We escorted Pearl outside. The setting sun painted the sky in dark hues. It was over. Another insane case, closed. But just as we got into the car, the radio crackled to life. A new call. Labrador glanced at me, sighed, and started the engine.